I want to talk to you about why Nollywood is a jungle, and that is a good thing. Good thing for everybody. Good thing for the country's economy in all kinds of ways. There's always all these debates about Nollywood. One of the things that I think is a problem with Nollywood is how many critics grew up watching Hollywood films or watching European films or watching, British films or even watching Indian films. And then because of the way that our culture, the way we do our things, we don't like ourselves almost. We don't respect our homegrown ideas, ideals, formats, all of that. So we always think that the best way to know whether a Nigerian thing is good or bad is for us to compare it with how Oyibo people do their things. And if Oyibo people do their things in a particular way, and we do it differently, or even worse, we try to copy them, and we don't copy them well, then the thing is not good. We need to begin to think about that differently. And I think that one of the ways to do that is begin to pay attention to how Nigerians who don't care or don't know, or because of survival cannot even copy or deal with the way that Oyibo people do things. And when we look at the way that organic, homegrown ideas emerge, then we cannot say to ourselves, how do we take that thing that they're already doing? And how can we make it better? Because that thing they're already doing organically is how Nigerians like to do things. Nollywood is a perfect example. There are 8 Nollywoods, 8 different existing Nollywoods at this moment. Did you know that? I'm sure you didn't. When I mention it, people are often surprised. And it often surprises me that they are surprised because the fact, that phenomenon, is obvious in our faces. What are the 8 Nollywoods? One is the popular one, the cinemas. That's one. We're going to break it down. But the first one is the cinemas that you all know. Yeah, that's an entire culture. The second one is what I call low visibility cable brands. And I'm talking about things like Concert, CONSAT, Darsat, DAARSAT, that was founded by AIT. Some of the channels many of the channels on Star Times that do Nigerian movies. When I tell Nigerians that Super Story is still one of the most watched Nigerian series, they don't believe it. But if you are on Star Times, on Wale Adenuga Productions TV station, and you are one of the over 1 million people watching WAP TV on YouTube, then you know that Super Story is still strong. Yeah, if you are janded or you are, speaking from your high table in Lekki or parts of Surulere or KWAM, you don't know that. But for the vast majority of Nigerians, millions and millions, Super Story is part of the culture. So those are what I mean by low visibility cable brands. We'll explain more. Then there are the high visibility cable brands, and I mean mostly Africa Magic. And there are at least 5 Africa Magic channels. So across those channels, every 2 hours, a movie is airing. So there's that. Then there is Asaba. Now, usually when people talk about Asaba, they talk about Asaba as if Asaba has passed. Many years ago, I've been hearing about it, but I did an interview with the actress Shan George. And I literally had to go and meet her in Asaba, in a popular hotel. It has been popular for decades, where Nigerian movies are shot. And where do you think Zubi Michael became popular from? Why do you think Zubi Michael is more recognized than many people in Nollywood? Come to that. So there is that group of Asaba movies. Yeah, it's an entire subculture separate from all the other subcultures. And there's the festival circuit movies. That's where the intellectual movies find their home. Then there are streamers. Then there's YouTube. Entire subculture of YouTube. Now, some of these subcultures mix and match, but they are different. And they're different in these ways. Different audiences, different people are watching it. Different production values, different sets of production costs. 1 camera shoots, 2 camera shoots, high quality audio, low quality audio, different funding models, different distribution models, different demographics for those that are viewing it. All of these are separate because the things that power these different Nollywoods are separate. And finally, there is Kannywood. So these are the 8 Nollywoods, cinemas, 2 sets of cable, low visibility brand cable, high visibility brand cable, festival circuit movies, streamers, Asaba, Kannywood, and YouTube. Now, somebody's going to be asking, why didn't I put the Yoruba movies inside a separate category? That is because the Yoruba industry has I always say that the biggest filmmakers in Nigeria now are all Yoruba. Think about it. Kemi Adetiba, Kunle Afolayan, Jade Oshiberu, Moabudu, Kayode Kasum, Funke Akindele, Tony Abraham, Mercy Aigbe, Ogabelo's sons, the ones that do every movie, that did King of Thieves, Beast of Two Worlds, Jagu Jagun, Bolanle Austin Peters. Think about it. As many of that come to my head, most of the top Nigerian movies today, the mainstream, big cinema, big streaming movies, are all helmed by Yoruba people. And so what has happened is that Yoruba filmmaking culture has so merged itself into the other groups that it's leading. Again, can you tell me one Hausa language movie on Netflix or Amazon? Hausa language movie. Or can you tell me one Igbo language movie on Netflix or Amazon? The closest were this year's Strained, and when was Genevieve's Lionheart, many, many years ago. Only Yoruba movies are able to exist on Amazon or on Netflix and become mainstream cultural hits. So that's why it's not a separate category. So let's delve into it. The first category of Nollywood is Asaba movies. In fact, if you are watching this broadcast, you probably, because I'm speaking a lot of English, you probably are not even one of those that consumes this in any way. In many parts of the Southeast, inside the Ijile of the Southeast, people are still watching movies on CDs, Nollywood movies. New, latest, when you go on YouTube, you see latest Nigerian 2024 movies. The new latest movies are being watched by Nigerians on CDs in many parts of the Southeast. In fact, that's where a bulk of the Igbo language movies that are really, really popular are watched in the Southeast. A bulk of it is still on CDs. A majority of it goes on African Magic Igbo. Some of it go on Star Times, and then some of it goes on YouTube. But different set of stars. Some of my crew members, when I'm shooting in the Southeast, shout out to them. When I'm shooting in Oka, Enugu, some of the crew members who I work with, these are the crew members that helped me shoot my Chinwe Talago interview. When they met Chinwe Talago, I was even late for that interview. They were gisting with him that, oh, cool, no, don't be annoyed. Because they had worked with him on several of those movies. And I went to shoot with Peter Joche. These are the same crew members. They were telling me, well, I worked with this person last year. The work rates of those guys. That's the actual Nollywood. This one we are doing is Nollywood. That one is the real Nollywood. So that's the first subset of Nigeria's Nollywood, Asaba. And their money comes directly from an audience, and it's very cheap CDs, but from an audience that believes in them, the bond between those people and their audiences, those influencers, those Igbo influencers, have hundreds of thousands, millions of thousands of followers on Instagram, on Facebook. If they tell their followers to buy mango, if they tell their followers to buy a particular bleaching cream, if they tell their followers to buy a particular condom, tell their followers to follow a particular Ekene boss, for low-income earners. These are influencers that, if they tell you to do it, you do it. An entire subculture. It's perhaps, when I stumbled upon it many, many, many years ago, and I've been observing it since, one of the most exciting things about Nigeria. So that's the first Nollywood. The second Nollywood is Kannywood. Now, you see that Kannywood there? This is Nigerian movie culture in Kaduna, Sokoto, Jos, Zaria, Bauchi, Maiduguri, and Gombe. These major centers. There are 3 ways that people call it. You only see bits and pieces of them. So we only see them, when they take them to Sharia court for TikTokers that are looking for trouble, when our fave, Rama Sadao, you've seen her now in her 2 Aishas, and then she has a reality show with her sisters she has 2 Aishas on Amazon, and a reality show with her sisters on Showmax. So when they ban her for indecent dressing, you put hear of those. But so people were surprised when they saw how many followers she had. The Hausa movie going, first of all, the Hausa movie going culture, of course, goes as far back as the 1950s. You know, the first movie was as far back as the 1950s. First cinemas was in those decades. And it has evolved from there. It has become a bit more caricature-ish, sadly. Again, actually, like many of the Yoruba movies of actual cinema culture, the ones that Orishenka loves. You know, Orishenka doesn't like Nollywood, by the way. He hates Nollywood. But because he remembers the films that he and his set used to do. And really gorgeous Hausa movies. But then, you know, once art became about Nigerian art, like much of the global art became very commercial. When it moved away from NTA and those art house cinemas, it became a bit of a caricature. So the thing that you actually see in those movies is like seeing skits in Nigeria. I really think that those skits is how the whole of Nigeria is. Maybe there's a grain of truth, but not how it is. Anyway, so Hausa movie culture was also cinemas. You know, you would go to Kano, or you would see images from Kano of popular cinemas. I mean, I've been to Kano, obviously, and if you go to one of the most famous cinemas at the time was Maraba Cinema, just on the outskirts. If you go to Maraba now, it's demolished. That is like, it's abandoned. There used to be moving troops, like, you know, those drama troops, like if you're Yoruba, you know, Abe Wanda, Tutide, you know, or Alawa Adakirijiri and all of those things. Abe Wanda was popular. And so those people that they do like acts, they're like traveling troops, traveling drama groups. In fact, some people will argue with you that Kannywood, the name Kannywood came before the name Nollywood. So they say Nollywood was New York Times article in like 2000, 2001. And they say, and some of those historians of Hausa culture say that Kannywood's name, they began to call Kannywood from like 1998, 1999. And most of the people that did that, those drama groups were the ones that stayed doing the first sets of Kannywood movies. Then marketers now came in. And one of the marketers was an Igbo guy, I forget his name, Eguji or something, was the top in Kano, top marketer of Kannywood, of Hausa movies. Until the Hausa people are like, please, you cannot be winning in Idumota, winning in the Upper Iweka Road and winning here to shift. You know, so they entered into the industry and they began to get preferential deals from Hausa filmmakers. So that was the first part. So they first started with VHS tapes, and then they moved to CDs. Then they had cinemas. And there's a number of cinemas there's, you know, apart from Maraba, there's Eldorado Cinema, which sadly Eldorado is still on, but there's Plaza Cinemas, which was also popular, but Plaza has closed down. And then again, some of those people have now moved to YouTube. And some of them have begun to enter mainstream culture. But now, one of the other interesting parts, or two interesting parts, is one, that the way that people would actually watch movies is that people would sit collectively in a large open space and watch a movie. So it's basically pop-up cinemas. You know, so when people are saying all these things, people are saying, I want to do pop-up cinemas. No, you didn't invent pop-up cinemas. You didn't invent community cinemas. You know, these might be informal structures, but in a lot of the city centers, especially Kano and Kaduna, there's always been the tradition of people saying, okay, there's this hot new movie, we're going to gather people together, we're going to charge them or not charge them, mostly charge them, and then we're all going to watch the movie together. And that was a thriving, really thriving culture. Yeah. Sadly, over the past few years, our movie-going culture has really, really gone down. And also, you know, to be honest, censorship has played its part. There was a popular actress many, many years ago, I think Hijia was her name, Maria Usman. She was slut-shamed, as we say it now, for her sex tape being leaked, I think. Then the regulators and the Hisba groups began to kind of screen out what people could create. You know, but more than that, it was the economy. The economy really demolished a thriving Kannywood culture. Decimated CDs, decimated. If you go to Eldorado in Kano now, the only thing that makes Eldorado a cinema. The only thing that makes Eldorado tick now is people go there to watch football on large screens. That's what Eldorado is good for. And Eldorado was a cultural center. So, but those filmmakers are still producing, especially the independent producers. You know, one of the Alinu, who had, before he became National Film and Video Censors Board chair, Alinu, who is one of the most popular Hausa actors, has his own vibrant YouTube page with vibrant YouTube movies and series. But he was even a latecomer. Before he arrived, you know, they had already become millions, I'm talking millions, 6.7 million views, 8 million views of Hausa movies on YouTube. So now much of that culture, sadly, has been emptied into YouTube. So that's the second movie tradition in Nigeria. I need to also mention that, there was also a channel called Arewa 24, satellite channel, I think, that also helped democratize Nollywood movies. But Arewa 24 has become severely weakened, yeah? But then again, there's also channels inspired by Arewa 24 that are on, or at least movies inspired that are on Africa Magic Hausa. So I just wanted to mention that because it's important to give credit to whom credit is due. The third category is high visibility cable brands, by which I mean Africa Magic. There's the Africa Magic channels, and then there's the Rock Studio channels. And I think there are about 3 Rock Studio channels on DSTV. Now, why you differentiate the high from the low is that those ones have Nollywood's top celebrities. And or many of the top Nollywood celebrities emerge from those platforms. So people like Bolanle Ninalowo, Uzo Arukwe was a Rock Studio star. Bimbo Ademoye came out of Rock Studios. Biodun TV used to do a lot of work with Bisola Ayola, Blessed Nze, Stanenze's better half. I think Maurice Sam, Ruth Kadiri, who has become, we're going to talk about Ruth Kadiri. Well, many of these movie stars emerged from the vibrant Rock Studios, and I think Nollywood actor that died recently, Junior Pope. Never heard of him before then. Never heard of him before then. But then when I went to research him after that, I realized, of course, I knew instinctively when I heard his name that he's one of those in these subcultures. And Rock Studio, what Jason and his wife, Mary Remy, who's the CEO of Rock Studios, have done is really incredible. They, more than anybody else, are responsible for creating a new league of stars, are also responsible for inspiring directly the YouTube culture, which makes sense because Iroko came out of the YouTube culture. It was first called Nollywood Love, and then it became Iroko, and then it also inspired Ibaka TV, which was supposed to be a YouTube and a streaming platform for movies, but Nigeria happened, so Ibaka. Iroko just showed people that you could really just take your own destiny into your hands. Yeah. So Iroko and Africa Magic usually used to exchange stars, and then those stars would emerge from there and go into cinemas and go into streamers, or do both at the same time. Those about 8, and Africa Magic also, I would separate Africa Magic, the English language Africa Magic channels, even Africa Magic Epic, from Africa Magic Igbo and Africa Magic Hausa and Africa Magic Yoruba, because they don't switch, stars don't go in between. So these ones are, they speak spray. They speak English language, they are Telegram people, they paint their nails, they do human hair, they are really living it up, they go to conferences, they do all those red carpets, all of that. That's the English language African Magic. Yeah, that's the Rock Studios set. And some of them have never been, or have only been in 1 or 2 mainstream cinema or streamer movies. But I'm telling you, they show up. They show up in Yaba market, or they show up in Onitsha market, or they're just walking down the road in Ilasamaja, and people will be screaming their names, or in satellite town, or in Ekpe, or in the places where the bulk of the Nigerian masses live. They know these guys. So that's the third Nollywood, the Africa Magic and Rock Studios Nollywood. And I'm going to come to the funding models, where people make money from these things later. But that's those ones. Now you have the lower one, the lower visibility channels. Now those ones they are mostly on Star Times, but they are also on Africa Magic. So I'm talking about Tribe TV. Do you know that the same guys that own Sound City, that own Spice TV, Urban Radio, Sound City Radio in Lagos, they're the same guys that own all of these channels. So at some point, the 2 top radio channels were owned by Consolidated Media Associates, which is owned by my Egbon, Tajuddin Adepetu. Badass, the owner of the largest portfolio of TV and radio channels in Nigeria that you didn't know, because he likes to clean out, privately. He owns a channel called Tribes TV, Nollywood channel. Been there for years. All kinds of Nollywood movies are there. low budget Nollywood movies, go straight to the point, no time for drama. Just go straight to the point, give me the gist. And then there are other channels, like I can mention, the aforementioned Wale Adenuga Productions. Rave TV, run by my auntie Agatha Amata, also puts Nollywood movies on. There is the Africa Movie Channel. I think it's AMC that it's called. So there's this bouquet of Nollywood channels, really. So these are low of the low budgets. Do you know that according to the data that insiders have shared, the biggest streamer in Nigeria doesn't have more than 120,000 subscribers? 120,000 subscribers. Less than, I think, certainly less than South Africa, far less than South Africa, and I think less than Kenya. Even worse because of our currency, like Mackenzie called it in the Bulaba economy. Because of the currency in the Bulaba economy, you can't even, the value of those subscriptions is going lower and lower. So the revenues that the streamers are making from our economy keeps going lower and lower. And everybody is fighting for that small space. Meanwhile, on the other side of the Nigerian Atlantic, people who have respect for the viewing and listening tastes of the mass audience are cleaning out, both in terms of viewerships and in terms of revenue. So that's the lower visibility, So start times, perhaps GoTV, but GoTV shares some of those movie channels to DSTV and some of the less visible brands. So that's the fourth category of Nollywood. The fifth one are the intellectuals, the movies that people who watch, aesthetically pleasing movies that are thoughtfully and artfully done, that can pass muster in the rarefied fields of Sundance and Berlinale and the Toronto International Film Festival and Tribeca, and Ouagadougou, the places where film heads have conversations about highfalutin, well-made, cultural defining movies, of which, if a movie is culturally defined, how can a movie be culturally defined if it doesn't define the culture? If Nigerians, rank and file Nigerians, this is my pet peeve with many Nollywood intellectuals. Other countries have their histories, and in many countries, because of literacy levels, because of high revenues, the viewing habits and the viewing habits and elite behaviors or mainstream behaviors can match. This is what I mean. People are watching these great complex movies, but they can watch those complex movies because they've stopped trying to survive. They have social security. They have time to contemplate on the meaning of life. They have time to think about higher ideals. This is literally what is happening. And also they can speak the language of those movies. So high culture and low culture can merge. Now, in that case, it makes sense that high budget, art house, I don't like to use the word well thought out, movies can be watched by a mass audience. There's not a lot of distance between culture and commodity in those countries. Not a lot of difference. So the same movies can become popular. And so people don't need to make what critics call lowbrow movies. But in a country like ours, where people are surviving, they don't have time to contemplate on existential crises. They don't have time. They want to laugh, they want to play, they want to... You can't expect the same evolution of movies and cinemas in those countries as with ours. And as long as those of you filmmakers who are raised on Lolita and Pulp Fiction don't respect this dichotomy, your movies will... So those fake pidgin English people speak in all those festival movies, I swear to God, those of us that grew up speaking pidgin English in Irishatedo, in Warri and other places, know when we see fake stylized pidgin English in festival movies. It's that thing you speak is not pidgin. It's too clean. It's too clinical. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that until you respect the mass audience and stop thinking that you can elevate their tastes, And stop thinking that you can elevate their tastes. You will keep not getting access to the big money that exists from doing film. We're going to talk about Funke Akindele soon. The big money that exists from doing films that somebody who is a vulcanizer in Ilaje can easily consume while trying to earn for his family. End of rant. And this is not a criticism of festival films. There's some really beautiful. I was watching A Green, White, Green on Tubi a few days ago, and I just thought, oh, this is such a beautiful, thoughtful film. I like, and not just because my bestie, Ifeanyi Dike Jr., is in it, but just well made. Anyway, so they are the festival films. And these are Nigerian movies that have done well on the major festival circuits. This is Tribeca, this is Sundance, this is TIFF, Toronto International Film Festival, Nigerians are very, this is Cannes Festival, this is the Berlin Film Festival, and some of even the sexy African and Black festivals, the Essence Festival, the Film Africa Festival in the UK, the one at the Lincoln Center in the US, the Pan-African Festival in Ouagadougou, the Durban Festival, this sexy festival, I think the Marrakesh Festival. So there are a number of Nigerian films that have done really, 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 really well in those. One of them is the Nigeria selection for the Oscars this year, for international feature at the Oscars this year, which is Mami Water.
When them burn our land, you be Mami Water Peking.
When the Mami Water power!
You get power where they work for you.
I missed it in the cinema because I spent very short time in the cinema, but every reviewer has almost scored 100% on, I think, Rotten Tomatoes. Every reviewer that watched this movie called it perfect, And the young man who did that film and his wife, who is his creative partner, have been doing really fine films, Brood, all of that, in Nollywood for years. Just nobody was paying them mind. Nobody was respecting what they were doing. But they were just working hard, saying, look, we can make films that on a technical and on a storyboarding level can match the best in the world. And last year it proved, I think they won awards at least 3 major international film festivals. And I think they were also signed on by CAA, which is one of the top creative artists agencies, one of the top talent agencies in the world. That's how brilliant their talent was. And there were rumors that Mami Water was going to go on HBO, and I hope those rumors turn out to be true. But there's been a number of those movies, that have done very well on the festival circuit. Juju Stories by the trio at the Surreal 11 Collective, Abba Makama, CJ Obasi, and others. I think Michael Omonua. 3 guys who just pushing the boundaries, and Nigeria tends to push back when you try experimental things, but they've been really trying. Juju Stories was a fine collection. It was like a collection of short stories. It really did well on the festival circuit. Eyimofe did very well on the festival circuit, done by 2 brothers who were just really brilliant and had a respect for the Nigerian storytelling tradition, And I think Eyimofe is still on Amazon Prime. At a point, Amazon Prime, before Amazon Prime really entered Nigeria, was a place where you could find the best of Nigerian festival circuit films. Movies like La Femme Anjola, movies like Country Hard, movies like Eguboyo's beautiful, beautiful film. But I think that one is in BET. I think it was on Amazon briefly. These festival movies, most of them you will find them on Amazon Prime. Milkmaid is one of them. It was also Nigeria's official selection to the Oscars. Ifeoma Chukwuogo's Bariga Sugar, Kenneth Gyang's Confusion Nawa, which is one of the pioneers. So before Kenneth Gyang began to make blockbusters like Blood Sisters and Loture, he cut his teeth doing crazy films like Confusion Nawa that just tried to push the boundaries. Just some of those delightfully chaotic films where plots and all of that seem to be, follows European filmmaking traditions. I always say that those movies are to Nigerian Nollywood what Josh Too Funny is to Nigeria's skit makers. That means all the skit makers are on one side, then all these ones are on this side. So those movies are what I call the festival circuit movies. Most of those movies only do well on festival circuits.